Welcome back to our deep dive in understanding what the coronavirus is, how it works, why it's led to a pandemic, and most importantly, how we can learn to protect ourselves both now and in future pandemics. Last episode, we learned how our cells use DNA as a set of instructions to produce proteins that carry out activities in order to keep us alive. Now that we have a basic understanding of how our cells operate, let's take a look at how viruses hijack our cells and use protein synthesis to create an army of viral invaders. Receiving a gift in the mail can be pretty exciting. Except if that package is a glitter bomb that explodes when you open it, covering you and everything around you in glitter. Worse yet, it might be impossible to clean it all up. You might end up spending months or years finding glitter in all the strangest places. On your bed, in your socks, maybe even in your food. How did it get there? Who knows? Glitter and viruses can be very invasive that way. What exactly is a virus? You've probably heard of viruses as these terrifying creatures of darkness that haunt you in your nightmares and gobble up children for breakfast. But in reality, they're more like tiny, simply built structures that have no ability to survive on their own. If that's true, how can something so small and seemingly helpless make you feel horrible when you catch the flu and even cause full-blown pandemics? Let's clear up something first. Viruses are not terrifying creatures of darkness. They're actually microscopic infectious particles that are composed of genes surrounded by a protein coat. You can think of them as a package of genes, kind of like a cell, although they are more different than you might think. First of all, viruses are not cells and they don't play by the same rules that cells do. Viruses are much smaller and contain no cellular components. If we think of your cell as a mini version of you with organelles to keep it alive, a virus lacks those organelles. So it makes sense that unlike cells, viruses can't reproduce or carry out metabolic activities on their own. Instead, they must infect a host in order to replicate themselves and produce an army of virus offspring. Since viruses lack the major components that make up a cell and behave completely differently, they're considered non-living. To really understand how a virus functions, let's get a better understanding of what viruses are composed of and how they hijack cells to cause infections. Generally, a virus possesses a genome, a capsid, and in some cases, a viral envelope. If we imagine that a virus is like a glitter bomb arriving in your mail, the box is the capsid, the viral envelope is the wrapping paper covering the box, and the glitter inside is the genome. The genome is the genetic material of a virus and contains the information needed to help a virus start an infection in your body. While we usually think of genes as being the double-stranded DNA found in your cells, a virus's genetic material doesn't follow this convention. Their genomes could either be a single linear or circular molecule of DNA or RNA, and some viruses can have multiple molecules of nucleic acid. What's even weirder is that their DNA or RNA genome can be double or single-stranded. This is completely different from our cells that only have double-stranded DNA or single-stranded RNA. When you send a package, you can't just chuck your gift into the mail unless you want it to arrive absolutely destroyed. Just like how we have to box our gifts before we mail them out, a virus's genome is packed inside a protein shell called a capsid for safe transport. If we're feeling fancy, we can even gift wrap our package to drum up excitement for our recipient. Similarly, many animal viruses capable of infecting humans have a viral envelope composed of phospholipids and proteins wrapped around the outside of its capsid shell. But this viral envelope is no cause for celebration because it's actually a structure the virus uses to trick the cell into accepting it inside so that it can begin a hostile takeover. Similar to our cells, a virus is trying to accomplish the same goal, survival. Let's begin exploring a virus's life cycle with one straightforward question. Why does a virus infect an organism? Viruses have to hijack host cells in order to replicate themselves. This is because they lack all the organelles necessary to generate energy to power metabolism and reproduce. Imagine if you didn't have any of your organs to keep you alive. If you wanted to survive, you'd have to borrow organs and get nutrients from somewhere else. Alright, finally the burning question you've all been waiting to hear the answer for. How exactly does a virus infect a cell? Viral infection begins with contact between a viral particle and a cell. In episode 1, we learned that our cells are selectively permeable. They're coated in receptor proteins that can recognize and bind to chemicals or structures outside of the cell. They're like messenger guards that regulate what chemicals to let in. As mentioned earlier, a virus is equipped with special tools or viral proteins that allow it to trick a cell into letting it in. If we think of the receptor proteins on a cell as locks, the proteins on a virus's surface, called glycoproteins, are like unauthorized copies of keys capable of undoing the lock. When a viral protein makes contact with a cell's receptor, they bind by fitting properly together, and the cell is fooled into accepting the virus. This is similar to the way you unlock your front door with your key. Your key has a specific shape that matches only with the lock to your door, which is how you know that other people can't freely gain access to your home, unless they somehow have a copy of your key. Once a virus enters a host cell, it uncoats itself in order to release its viral genome and work on establishing an infection. This is split into two different processes. 1. A virus's goal is to create new virus particles to colonize more body cells. To accomplish this, the virus must hijack the host cell's enzymes and organelles to replicate its viral genome. Each new virus must receive a full copy of the genome in order to function correctly and continue the invasion. 2. Simultaneously, other host enzymes transcribe the viral genome into viral mRNA. This process of viral gene expression, or production of viral proteins, is just like transcription and translation of protein synthesis. The virus essentially hijacks the cell's enzymes responsible for protein synthesis and causes the host cell to read the viral genome as if it were its own DNA. The host ribosomes then use the viral mRNA to make more capsid proteins. In essence, the host cell is converted into a virus factory, churning out many copies of various viral components, awaiting to be assembled like a Lego model set. Once all the components are pieced together to form an army of virus replicates, the new virus particles can now exit the cell and repeat the cycle. Over time, new viruses keep popping up around the world. Where do they come from, and why do they seem to get better at creating health problems for us? There are three major factors that contribute to the phenomenon. 1. Genetic variation, 2. Evolution, and 3. Increased viral traffic. Genetic variation basically means that in any given population of viruses, differences exist in the genomes of individual viruses in that group. This is just like how the students of your school might all be humans, but they're individually different from each other. But where does genetic variation come from? There are two main sources: recombination and mutation. Recombination occurs when two viruses infect the same host cell and accidentally stuff some genetic material from both viruses into the same capsid. This is similar to a shoe factory that mistakenly packages two different types of shoes into the same shoebox to be sent out. Because recombination involves the trading of viral genomes, it generally results in big changes that can produce viruses with entirely new characteristics. Mutations, on the other hand, are individual changes within a virus's genome that generally result in slight changes to the characteristics of a virus. As opposed to developing completely new spike proteins, a mutated virus may instead have a modified spike protein that can improve its ability to infect a host. As we can see, recombination and mutation create a lot of genetic diversity among viruses. What's more, viruses can evolve, just like all the living organisms that inhabit our planet. Viral evolution is important because it enables a virus to adapt, spread, and potentially cause a pandemic. Viruses with traits that improve their ability to survive and replicate are able to persist longer and reproduce more rapidly than viruses lacking these traits. This is a result of natural selection, a process in which the individuals with genetic traits best suited to their environment are able to outcompete others and be selected in this game of survival. Natural selection allows viral populations to evolve or change over time so that viruses with new ways to evade our body's defenses or overcome antiviral drug effects continue to appear. This could lead to a pandemic that becomes very difficult to stop. Another factor that can enable a virus to spread and cause a pandemic is increased viral traffic. Today, international travel is fairly accessible and brings people from all walks of life into contact. When this contact involves unknowingly passing a virus from one person to another, the result can be a rapid spread of an infectious disease on a global scale. So, what's the takeaway from today's episode? 1. Viruses are microscopic parasitic invaders that are composed of a viral genome, capsid, protein shell, and sometimes a viral envelope to establish infection. 2. Viruses, including SARS CoV 2, the virus responsible for our current pandemic, enter their hosts by binding their spike proteins to a cell's receptors in a lock and key fashion. 3. Once inside, viruses hijack a cell's machinery to replicate more viruses that exit to infect other cells and establish an infection. Stay tuned next time to find out how your immune system works to fight off infections.